would accept the rationale, the logic, the excuse, whatever you want to call it, to justify that action. Thank you.
Thank you. Clergy.
To our moderator, Madam President, Mayor Goodwin, Chief Smith, to our members of City Council, fellow clergymen, to the Gilmore family, who's not been acknowledged to this point, and to you, the community at large, good evening. I thank each and every one of you for the opportunity to stand here and to address this matter. Let me begin by saying that I believe that it is both very unfortunate and very good that we're here tonight. It's unfortunate in that this situation had to be, yet it's fortunate in the hopes that reasonable minds can come together for the purpose of reasoning to an acceptable and agreed upon outcome. That's right. At least that's my hope. Let me quote Mayor Goodwin. I respect the decision of Chief Smith that the actions of the officers were within current policy, but that policy needs updated to reflect our community values. If and since this is agreement from our mayor and other city officials that need for policy change or update is warranted, then I submit that this insight had to come from viewing and examination of the entire situation itself. Insight that came after having viewed this video and then looking at the policy and guidelines which directed authorities to such an unjust outcome. Then to me, it seems that they too realize and recognize that something is wrong with this picture. Indeed, something is very wrong. It's wrong to continue to reference and lean upon a policy to justify such an abusive situation that has rendered such a horrible decision only for policy's sake. It's wrong that there is a policy in place that would allow the use of unreasonable force. It's wrong that there was no outside investigation done in order to take away all appearance of impropriety. It's wrong that the public was not made aware of prior incidents of misconduct accusations against this officer in the same way it's done, when talking about common citizens. It's wrong that we as a community are subject to officers who lack proper training and interaction with those members of our community who require special needs care and approach. Again, I say to you, it's wrong. It's just wrong. And now the question is, what do we do about it? How do we bring justice and righteousness to such a tense situation? How do we achieve wholeness from such a broken picture? I suggest that we begin by looking at three key areas. First, this system needs to be made whole. If the community is going to be made to believe and trust in the system, then there must be a deliberate attempt made by the system to be trustworthy. And it must be done through transparency. These type of decisions concerning such public incidents must not be made behind closed doors absent community input. There must be an inclusion of community leaders who are trusted and appointed by the community to be involved in such circumstances from start to finish. There can be no wholeness within a system where the community has no access or input. Neither can there be wholeness within a system that does not practice self-accountability that is evident to the people. Second, this community needs to be made whole. Our entire community has been deeply impacted by the recent use of force involving our police department. Please know I hear you, and I have been taking action and will continue. Again, these are quotes given by Mayor Goodwin, and that's good to hear. But please understand me. We don't want, neither can we afford to allow even the perception of such tensions between law enforcement and community as we see happening nationally to increase here in our community. But if we're not careful in our decisions, and if we're not considerate in our deliberations, then one day we just may wake to find that perception has turned into reality. We don't want to be a community who fears the very people who are sworn to protect and serve us and our children. We don't want to be a community that has been given a perception by incidents such as this that justice is a right given to everyone except just us. But what we want is equality and righteousness. Equal consideration under the law, and equal determination and disposition of the law. Equal respect for who we are, and not to be disrespected because of where we are. Equal access to human decency and peace, and for it to be seen as evident that in this community there truly is liberty and justice for all. And then we want righteousness instead of fairness. For far too long we've been treated with what some would call fairness. But I found that you can be treated fair, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's right. To some, according to policy, this ruling is fair. But to others, myself included, it just ain't right. And in order for this community at this time to be made whole, this situation before us now must be made right. And finally, this young lady needs to be made whole. Being someone who was born with and has lived all her life with various physical and mental challenges, this incident has served only to add to her struggle. As deeply as we, the community, have been impacted, I believe it is nothing in comparison to the impact placed upon Miss Frida Gilmore. And so, if we truly are interested in wholeness of community, if we are sincere about reflecting our community values, if the system is willing to hold itself accountable before this community, then I see no better place to begin to demonstrate this sincerity than what we do here at this point to help this young lady. That's what community does. The question is that who we are? The reality is, it remains to be seen. Thank you.
Mayor Goodwin, City Council members, other present elected officials, Chief Smith, the Gilmore family. Recently, several pastors representing more than 20 churches in the Charleston area met to consider our collective response to this incident. The violent beating and arrest of Frida Gilmore on October 14, 2019. And as a result of that collaboration, we make these following declarations and requests. We believe that the Charleston Police Department Patrolman Carly McCoy and Joshua Mena employed excessive and unreasonable force in the violent beating and arrest of Frida Gilmore on October 14, 2019. We find the internal review of these officers' actions by the Charleston Police Department to be both inappropriate and inadequate. Neither patrolman was held accountable for their conduct, as their conduct was found to be in accordance with current policy per Chief Opie Smith. Officer Mena has a documented history of complaints concerning his conduct as a patrolman of the Charleston Police Department. Charleston's African American community does not feel safe with police officers like Joshua Mena, who have demonstrated a propensity for excessive and unreasonable use of force. Charleston's African American community is angry because these officers have been returned to duty with no consequences for their actions. Mayor Amy Goodwin's determination that the use of force policy needs to be changed suggests that the current policy is insufficient and fails in protecting the rights of the citizens of Charleston, and further suggests that the administration also found the actions of these officers to be unreasonable and excessive. Many policy changes were suggested and presented by the City of Charleston in an 8-point plan in October of 2016. But to date, there has been little or no implementation of any of these proposals. And whatever the policy may be, there is no policy that permits unreasonable and unnecessary force. In light of these facts, we respectfully request that the mayor immediately refer this case for independent review by the Kanawha County prosecutor and the FBI for thorough investigation and evaluation of the conduct of the patrolman in question. We request that the mayor immediately refer this case for independent review by the Kanawha County prosecutor and the FBI for thorough investigation and evaluation of the conduct of the patrolman in question. We request that the patrolman, McCoy, and Mena be returned immediately to administrative leave pending the results of that independent review by the aforementioned agencies. We request a complete and thorough review of all current policies of the Charleston Police Department. We request inclusion of impacted groups in the revision and implementation of new policies which preserve and protect the rights of the citizens of Charleston, West Virginia. We request that all current and future Charleston Police Department officers receive training on the proper use of force, cultural sensitivity, mental health awareness, emotional intelligence, and crisis intervention. We request that there be a formation of a police review board comprised of citizens representative of Charleston's great diversity. Finally, we respectfully request that the mayor and the city council respond to these matters in writing within 10 days, and that a meeting be scheduled with this clergy collective within the next 60 days to review progress toward the implementation of these changes. We've given an address for response, and we've submitted it on this 5th day of November 2019. And I stand with these.
It was easier just to get them all together and make only a few respond, because you wouldn't want to have all of them, because, you know, all of them have strong opinions and all of them are really, really affected about what has happened. Chief, Mayor, do y'all want to respond to this right now? Get yours.
Thank you so much. I appreciate every word, every bullet point, and definitely we'll get together immediately as we have been doing, and I'm delighted to not only just respond in 10 days, but maybe to have a meeting as we go forward as well. So for sure, there'll be a response in 10 days. Certainly looking forward to continuing to meet with folks as well. So I appreciate and am going to engage in every single one of the points that you talked about tonight. So I thank you.
Chief, you want to respond? No. We're good. All right. All right. We going to get started? Huh? Yeah, you respond. You respond. Introduce yourself.
I'm Owens Brown. I'm the state president of the NAACP, and I've come here to monitor this event and offer any assistance to the Charleston branch as to what we can do to help them. But unfortunately, you know, this is not unique to Charleston. It's happening in Huntington. It's happening in Wheeling. It's happening in Morgantown. It's happening not just in the city of Washington, but all over the country. You know, no other government agency has a greater impact on the lives of everyday citizens than the police. The police are the point of contact between the people and the government. The police have the authority to stop you, search you, arrest you, incarcerate you, and even have the authority to kill you if they claim it was necessary. There is no other